Welcome back to First Rounds on Me, the podcast about dating, relationships, love, sex, and everything in between. I'm Steve, along with my co-host and First Rounds on Me founder and CEO, Joe Feminella. If you're completely new to First Rounds on Me, we're a dating app that cuts out all the small talk and encourages you to actually go on real dates so you can create a real, genuine connection in person rather than trying to through a phone screen. If you haven't downloaded Frome yet, go to the App Store, create your profile, find yourself a date, fall in love, and make some beautiful babies. If we're not in your city yet, we're working to get there as soon as possible. If you're loving the app, please consider leaving us a rating and review on the App Store. This really helps us grow, and we love getting your feedback. If you have a Frome success story, we'd love to hear all about it and feature you on our social media. Today's guests are Maddie Orlando and Aidan Browne. Maddie is the founder of Artless, a clothing brand built on the fundamental desire to inspire those who wear it to feel confident in their expression of self. Additionally, Maddie and her sister Lauren are the co-creators of the Call Your Friends podcast, where they chat about fashion, skincare, beauty, health and fitness, and more. Aidan is in his last semester of USC Film School and is currently directing and producing short films and movies. Maddie, Aidan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you guys here.
Excited to be here.
Great to be here, guys.
How are you? We like to start with that, just checking in with our guests. How are you guys?
I'm good. A little tired today, but good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Likewise, I think a bit tired. Lots of traffic today, but otherwise can't complain.
Yes, Joe's a little late
I'm
today. It's been a rough
late,
day.
but today was
Fashionably.
actually a traffic day.
No,
It was really bad.
It was definitely a traffic day. So,
Everyone says that in
that's fine.
LA, but it was especially bad today.
Yeah, I love how we're all wearing black. We did not coordinate that.
I like it.
I love it.
Well, I wanted to start, Maddie, with the importance of family, right? I know you're very close to your family and your siblings specifically, right? So can you talk about maybe how that's kind of shaped you and gotten you where you are today?
Yeah, I have a big family. I have 3 siblings, and we spend a lot of time together. And I like to say that we're close physically. Like, my parents like to have us all together, and also, like, emotionally, like, share a lot of stuff with each other. We also work together. So that has been interesting. Like, it's good and bad depending on the week, honestly. But yeah, family is a huge part of my life. I have a podcast with my sister, so we spend tons of time together. And it's just nice to, like, know that people are always there for you and, like, always have your best interest at heart.
For sure.
Yeah.
Aidan, how about you? Is family important to you?
100%. I think, unlike Madison, I'm an only child, and so I've grown up very tight with both of my parents. I think at points almost too close, very close proximity. But my dad comes from a family of 8, and my mom from a family of 6. So I've been around a lot of people. Every year we have trips, and I do work with my mom as well. So family is very important.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you from LA originally?
I am, yeah.
You are, okay.
I'm born and raised here.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, we rarely get people who are from LA and also that are close to their families. Like, usually.
Really?
Yeah. I would say usually either an expat of LA
Right.
or
Right.
you kind of don't have a strong family dynamic, but it's so interesting and amazing to have 2 guests because I come from that background as well. Like, I'm super close with my family. They're in New York, though.
Especially in New York. Yeah.
Which is I'm kind of jealous in a way that you guys actually get to live in LA and have your families around. It's so cool.
Right.
But yeah, super interesting.
Yeah, is a big family important in terms of children? Do you want to have a certain number of children?
I did think that, like, when I was growing up, I'm like, I'm definitely going to have 4 kids because it's the only thing I ever knew, obviously. But now I'm like, 4 kids is a lot of work. Like, I feel for my parents now because I'm older. I'm like, I don't know how you did that.
Oh, yeah.
Joe's one of 4 as well.
Yeah, so
Oh,
how
really?
far apart are you and the siblings?
I'm the oldest, and then my sister's 24, and then 20 and 18.
And
So
how
they-
old are you?
26.
Okay,
So
so
it was like 2 of us, little break, and then 2 more.
yeah, so I'm 32, then I got 31, then 29, and then 27. So it's 6 years apart.
Pumping them out over there.
Yeah. Back to back to back.
Shout out to Jackie. Right on. What I do want to ask you, what does a great first date look like to each of you?
I feel like I haven't been on that many first dates. Like, I've met people through friends or, like, in a more casual setting. I'm trying to think of, like, what an amazing first date would be like.
Well, let's say you meet someone through friends in a casual setting, and you're like, oh, I really like this person. Right. What would be the next step? Would you go on a proper?
Seriously, tell me that.
Yeah, okay. So Madison and I met actually through a friend of ours at Soho House. and it was late. We were having drinks. We were talking, blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of like, let's hang out over the weekend. Let's go for a hike. And then we ended up meeting up a couple days after and went for a hike and then went for sushi. And it was very casual and then natural. And then it kind of just progressed. But I think personally, first dates, I haven't gone on that many first dates. I think it's like a very casual setting, like you say. But
So you guys weren't friends ahead of time. You had met your friend, and then went on this hike.
Well,
yeah.
we kind of progressed. It was very much friends at first, and then we just worked together, and then it kind of just progressed into a relationship.
Nice. So you guys had like security behind it.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Definitely.
kind of had some mutual friends in the middle.
Would you agree?
Yeah. But I think the first time that we met, I was interested in Aidan because we were talking a lot. We had really good conversation.
Yeah.
So I would say that would be like a sign that you're having a good first date if it's easy to talk to the person, like you're on the same page on a lot of things.
You say that she said that there's not a lot of interesting guys in LA.
Okay.
So
I mean, I think
I
there's
found him very interesting.
I think there's a lot of surface level interesting people in LA.
100%.
But I
A
think
lot of it's surface level.
yeah, I agree. Like there's very few people you could actually sit down and just have a talk for hours. I remember on Hannah and I's first date, we went to Gracias Madre and the waiter had to come over 3 times because we were just talking so much. And they were like, you know, like you guys want to
ready?
order
That's a good
food? And we're
sign.
like, oh, like we were legitimately like sorry, but we were just so engaged in the conversation. And I think that's a great sign, you know.
It's the key, I think, to a healthy relationship is good conversation.
Now, you said that you were interested in him right when you met him. Did you kind of position yourself to not get in the friend zone and kind of give a vibe of like, hey, I'm open to hanging out with you?
I personally didn't feel like I was in the friend zone.
You did or you didn't?
Did not.
Okay.
I don't know. Did you have the intention of being friends when we met?
Yeah, I mean, full context. I was out of another relationship that was long and back and forth from LA to Europe. So I was kind of in the stage of like, kind of winding down and figuring out what I wanted next. And then I think Madison and I just hit it off, and it was very natural. And I don't think that like I was thinking about a relationship at the time, but as months went on, it definitely progressed into that. But I'm trying to think back. I mean, we hung out a lot though.
Well, I think that
It was like every day, gym, you know, going to lunch, doing stuff together. I think it just built a nice, solid foundation.
yeah, and I think those are like really good indicators when you're not looking for a relationship.
Yeah.
When, like same with me, like when I got out here, I wasn't really looking to be in a relationship, but the connection was so deep that I was like, okay, let's keep hanging out because I just enjoy hanging out with you
Right.
and see where it goes.
Right.
Whereas opposed to, I think some people look for a connection and maybe they kind of settle because they're like, I just want to be in a relationship with somebody.
Right.
And that first person that gives them kind of what they want, they're like, okay, I guess this is good enough for now.
I think one thing that I learned from my mother is that she always kind of ingrained this thing into my head where if you're looking for something, it's kind of hard to find it, and sometimes it blindsides you, and then it turns into a good situation. So definitely, point in fact in this case.
Yeah, and we always talk about how it's much more attractive, right? If someone else, because there's people whose main mission is to find somebody, right?
Right.
And they don't have a higher purpose, or they don't have something that's driving them in life, right? And I feel like when someone has that, it makes them more attractive in general, and it kind of allows a relationship to potentially happen more organically, as opposed to like doing everything to try to get a particular person. Also, I think when that happens, some people almost take the first person that shows interest in them, as opposed to finding like the right person or the person they want to try with.
Yeah, they're just trying to like slot somebody into the position of boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it is, rather than finding someone who they really want or like will really add to their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think it's more attractive too to have your own thing going on, and then if you meet someone who's really great and like adds value, it's amazing. But you're not looking for them necessarily.
Yeah, love that.
Exactly. So you said you had gotten out of something. Were you guys ever on dating apps?
I was on Raya, but not seriously. I feel like that's what everyone says.
Absolutely what everyone says.
Because
Yeah.
it's just not real, but not really.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I downloaded Tinder once or twice.
I don't see you as a Tinder guy.
I don't see myself as a Tinder guy either. I think I downloaded Tinder and Bumble maybe when I was, for the wrong reasons, maybe when I was on a trip somewhere with my friends and we just were like, well, who's in town? But No, I've never been one to really like fully give my all to a dating app.
So it seems like you guys are like really intentional about who you give your time to, who you get into relationships with. Like where do you think that stemmed from? Like especially like, you know, you're both really good looking people. You're in LA, you're young, you're around all these people probably. And I'm sure you both get pursued all the time when you were single.
Right.
How did you kind of understand like, I don't just want to hook up with people and date people. I actually am true to myself and want a more real thing, and I'll wait for that to come along.
I think for me, was always really busy with work, and that made it easy to not get distracted by guys or like wanting a relationship because I didn't really feel like I needed it. Like this is what I used to say to myself, like I feel fully fulfilled in my life with the stuff I have going on, whether it's my family or work stuff. So I don't feel like I need something. But if I find someone or I meet someone out or whatever it is, that's great. And like I'm definitely interested in potentially pursuing something, but I'm not looking. But then I'm like, I'm sure there'll be a point in my life where I should start looking, but I just didn't get there yet.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I actually had that question for later, right? So I was going to say that you seem very independent and confident being by yourself, and you know, you seem good by yourself from what I gathered from my research. But still, as a woman, right, did you feel pressure from either society or family or anybody to get into a relationship and start to go down that path?
Not family, luckily, but definitely society. And also, I'm from Toronto, so it's a little bit of a different mindset than LA. I think in LA, it's not abnormal for people to be in their mid-20s and like not settling down and having kids and stuff. But in Toronto, it's a little bit more, it's not like a small town, but more of a small town mentality. So some of my friends are getting engaged and getting married. And I'm like, is that something that I should be thinking about too? But luckily in LA, I think there's a lot of people that are doing their own thing and are not following a traditional path necessarily. So I like that. But yeah, I definitely have thought about it. It's definitely a thought I have even still at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like just, you know, we're in our 30s, and back home, the pressure to get in a relationship and to get married and have kids was, you know, so heavy on us as well. And we always talk about like in LA, I feel like age doesn't really matter. I know a lot of people say that, but I really feel like here it doesn't matter because everybody's, like you said, working on a passion or a goal. And it's like, it's more of a mindset than an age thing. And we are like risk takers being here and, you know, being those people who are going to be changing the world, whether it's through film or clothing or modeling or apps, right? And like people will appreciate us one day, and we're kind of living our passions and they're living vicariously through us.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that, or something I've had to realize is one path is not necessarily better than the other. Like it's easy to compare yourself to someone else who seems maybe further along in their life because they're married or whatever like objective we see as like the next step, but it's not necessarily that they're further along. You're just on different paths.
Exactly.
I think that's an
Very well
amazing way
said.
to look at it. Yeah.
Very well said.
So now is your family in Toronto or here?
They go back and forth.
Okay.
So my dad works in Toronto, so he's there most of the time. My mom likes to be in LA, especially in the winter. And then my siblings work in the entertainment industry, so they spend time here, but also like to be back in Toronto as well.
Nice.
I'm the only one that's actually my youngest sister goes to USC, so we're both here permanently. But then the other two go back and forth.
So cool.
Cool.
That's awesome.
So this is kind of a two-part question, but they're very similar, so I'll ask them together. The first one would be, what qualities do you look for in somebody, in a partner? And then also, what qualities contribute to a healthy, happy, successful, long-term relationship? So I guess we'll start with, what do you look for in somebody?
For me, I look for someone who has ambition. So it's like doing their own thing and can kind of match my independence, maybe, and confidence. I think that's really attractive. Those are like the two main things. I think also for me, being good with family is important because that's just something that's like a big part of my life. I'm trying to think of other qualities. Do you want to say yours?
Have you met the family yet, by the way?
I have met everybody except the father.
Oh. Now, is that
Okay.
purposely set up?
No, he's
No,
just
he's
not
just-
here very
he's
often.
Busy guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I'm
I need him
definitely,
soon,
I feel like
Excited.
you'll pass that test.
I think so.
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, you're good with parents, Aidan.
I'm good with parents. The question was the qualities I look for in somebody to maintain a healthy relationship.
Or at the beginning, and then like, you know, when you first meet somebody?
I think what I personally look for is also, I'll piggyback on the aspect of family, I think, because it was just ingrained in me since I was a child that I think going back to the kind of pressure of getting married at a specific age, I think the pressure that I had was more of you need to marry someone who has a good family life, someone who's connected to their mother, their father, their siblings if they have them. And so I think that for me was always in the back of my head. And I think with Madison, she has such a good connection with all of her siblings and her mom and her dad. I think that to me is it's a healthy, number one, it's a healthy foundation. And I think that it also just proves stability in all aspects of life. I think another big one for me is just having a good sense of humor. I think because I joke a lot and maybe some of my jokes are a bit like, I go over the edge a bit, but I think it's all with good intention. And I like to joke around and just have a good time. And I think that someone who can match that energy is pretty cool. But she is very independent, and I think that I'm independent in a lot of ways. But we do our own things, and then we come back together, and it's a good, healthy match.
You guys seem well beyond your years. And
Thank you.
yeah, and these answers, it's so funny because Steve does a lot of on the street stuff, like asking people questions.
cool.
And, he asks someone about like qualities in a partner, but also like an amount of income they make, right?
Right.
And this woman gave a great answer of like, I don't really care about a number of income. I care about if they're passionate and have goals and ambitious, which is great. And I think that is the actual response that it should be.
Right.
And we had so many people commenting like, no, like a partner needs to make X amount of dollars. And it's like seeing like what I go through and like having true love, and like you can't put a dollar amount on love, right? If you're looking for someone that makes a certain amount of money, you're kind of just picking and choosing like a payment kind of thing, which doesn't make sense, and it's not like love.
It's a bit unfair, I think. I think it puts a lot of pressure on the person, especially if maybe they don't make as much money as the spouse or the partner would like them to. I think that's a tricky situation.
And then it's like, if say two people do meet, right, and they have no idea how much money each person makes, and they're kissing and having great banter,
right,
and then they find out after, oh, you only make this much money,
right?
Can you like turn it off and be like, oh, I actually don't want to be with you? Because that would be ridiculous. Like, why would you turn down such an amazing connection based off of something so transactional?
I also think that like having the ambition or the ability to set goals and want to achieve things for yourself is a better way of looking at it than like a dollar figure, because money
100%.
comes and goes.
Exactly.
It doesn't really matter that much. But if having someone who's successful is important to you, I feel like they'll always be successful in what they do if they have that sort of mindset.
Yeah, and when the money comes and goes, right? Like when it goes, do you have that person that's with you in the thick of it?
That's what matters.
And when it comes, it's like, does that person see you, not the money? Because like those two things are the most important.
It's
So true.
probably extremely hard for some people. I mean, I would assume for the majority of people,
Yeah, and that's what I find so fascinating about LA is like,
especially here.
yeah, like a lot of people are working on cool stuff. A lot of people are really smart. But I think when it comes down to actual human connection, whether that's like relationship or friend, there's just like an ulterior motive, whether it's like, I only want to date this guy who's got this much money, or I only want to date this girl who could like get more followers from me, right? It's like, if you treat people, friends and relationships that way, eventually you're just going to fall off with everybody, and you're going to have to work through circle of friends, circle of relationships. And it's like, just exhausting.
It's not sustainable.
Do you think that's like a LA specific thing? Like
I think it's like a
for-
big city thing, right? Because a lot of people who live in big cities like are obviously working towards big goals, and like you have so many options, whether it's friends or relationships. And I think the more you go around that loop, the more you drain yourself, and then you figure out, hey, I actually want to connect with real people. I actually want to be in a relationship. And I think it's really hard for those people the longer they stay in that loop, because you've kind of exhausted so many relationships that people are like, you're a fake, you know?
I think it's definitely like an on steroids version in LA for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Has
I always
that
think about it.
reputation.
What's that?
LA has that reputation for
Exactly.
sure.
And I kind of think about it as like a chicken egg thing, right? Are those people, do they come here, or does LA kind of like create those
Hatch
people?
them.
And I think it's a little bit of both,
Yeah,
right? Like if you can
definitely.
either get worse by it, or you can block it out and just be, kind of like someone with their head screwed on straight with not looking for that type of thing.
Right.
It's definitely around you. So if you're not aware of it, I feel like you kind of get pulled in a little bit.
Yeah. And we always say like LA, but LA is such a big place, right? And we're
Right.
probably specifically talking about like West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, a little bit of stuff out in like Santa Monica, Venice, like those types of crowds.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, especially this area in particular, it's definitely heightened.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I would say like my experience, because I moved here 3 years ago. When I first got here, I was like, I don't really like the people. Like, it's what we're talking about. And now I've kind of found really good friends. And I'm like, I love LA because I picked and choose and I'm in the right circles with people who actually care about me. And I'm like, oh, this place is amazing. I love it.
That's I think the sweet spot in Los Angeles. I'm born and raised here, so I have been around so many different kind of people with different intentions, rich people, people with mediocre income. I've been around a lot of people here, and I definitely have found that my core group of friends have been people that are also from LA, but just normal people. I mean, my childhood best friends that I've known since I was 2 years old, born and raised in LA, and it's just they're here. You just got to find them, and you got to pick and choose. Because I think in the recent 10 years, maybe a bit more, a lot of people have come here in this, especially in this generation with TikTok and all this stuff. They come here in hopes to make money and to just do all the lavish things that LA has to provide. And it's not invasive at all, but it's just like that kind of group, I think, brings in even the normal LA kids, and then it just kind of gets into this whole circle, kind of cyclical.
Well, I would even say
thing.
when I met you, right? Because I met you at Jonah's that night with Jonathan, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you gave off just like that genuine, like, nice
thank
to meet
you.
you kind of vibe.
I
And
appreciate that.
It was awesome because like I'm really big on that. Like if I meet somebody new, which you do all the time here,
Right.
You could tell within 5 minutes what they're like, right? And when I met you, you were asking a lot of questions about the app, about me, about Hannah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this guy for such a young, kid,
Yeah.
was just so genuine and just like wanted to get to know us, and it just was so refreshing. Whereas in LA, you meet people and like, oh, I'm working on this. This is what I do,
Right.
and it's like, okay, like I can only listen to what
Right.
you do for like so long, and I don't care.
I just want to talk about themselves. My sister says to Aidan, "You're the only normal guy I've met in LA."
But it's true, and
I
like,
try. Thank you very much.
no, yeah, and it's like even with this show and like with the app, like we don't want to work with people just because they have like a following or because like they could move us to some stratosphere. It's like we genuinely want to be involved with people that are genuine, and that's why like Jonathan has been a staple. And like with you, I was like, okay, like I actually want to talk to you and get to know you and like build a community around the people that you know, right? Because it's like you meet through friends, like you
100%.
connect through friends.
Yeah.
It's like we're just building that bigger, genuine community.
I think that's a really smart move, honestly, to not target just the influencers or just the people with a high following and big accomplishments. It's smart, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll kind of learn the hard way too, with just trying to get the wrong people on board at first, and realizing either, I mean, if you're looking at it like logically, that their followers are fake or like,
Right.
Bots and stuff, but also just from a, like Joe's saying, a genuine standpoint, like we want people who actually believe in it and their audiences, have a similar belief to us. So also for the record, when Joe said he moved here in 2020 and didn't like the people, I was the only person he actually knew here. So he didn't like me apparently.
Oh no.
So
Really?
I don't know how that makes me feel.
You
That's
didn't
been-
count.
Well, what are I want to talk about non-negotiables for a relationship. What are some of your non-negotiables?
Let me think. I don't know if I have like any hard and fast non-negotiables. I think it's more so I have like standards or things that are important to me. But I'm trying to think of like one thing that would be completely off limits. Maybe someone who like didn't have a plan for their life or like didn't have much ambition. Like that's really important to me. But
What about just a general turnoff maybe? And I'm going to exclude being rude to wait staff because that's what everyone says.
yeah, that is bad. That would be a big turnoff for sure. Being rude in general, like that sort of attitude, I think is a turnoff. I don't know. Can you think of any non-negotiables?
I'm sure I have a couple, but my mind is blanking. Let me think.
Joe, did you have any when you?
No, but I mean, obviously we learned so much doing this, but you see on like Instagram and TikTok, all these people talk about the red flags, right? If someone does this, run away, which I hate because every story is unique, right? And you don't know context, and you don't know what's behind, reasoning behind each situation. So like, I don't know, a non-negotiable for me is probably someone who just didn't have the same outlook on life as me, right? Like I think the main thing that Hannah and I really connected on was like we wanted to make a lot of money, but we wanted to give back. We wanted to help people, and like we wanted to have a family, right? And I think just that genuine, like you could feel someone's genuine and intentional, right?
Of course.
And I think I've always been trying to embody that with this app. And when I met her, yeah, she was really pretty, and maybe that's why I initially went out with her, or it helped because like she was really pretty. But then talking to her, it went from, okay, this is just going to be a one-time date with this person, into, oh wow, like not only is she really pretty, I'm really attracted to her, but her morals and values are so aligned with mine, which made me more attracted to her, because once you could start to see a future with somebody, it just sets you off in a different light with that person. So
100%.
yeah, I think a non-negotiable, just an outlook on life for me.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
one like obvious one or like more clear would be not wanting to have kids, because that's important to me. But otherwise, I think non-negotiables are a little bit simplistic, like you're saying. Like it's more of like you can't really say red flags because everything has a backstory, or there's just things that you are more willing to negotiate on than others, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And all these people that talk about red flags, you don't know the feeling you have for each other, and you don't know, like we had someone talk about, if a guy doesn't answer you, or if a guy pulls away after the second date, run away because he's not interested in you. And I was like, that's so not true, because after my second date with Hannah, I pulled away because I liked her so much and I got scared, and you just don't know what someone's thinking on the other side.
Right.
For sure.
I kind of agree, and I think I don't know if I would call it a non-negotiable, but I think just having the outlook on life. But I think one of the things to me that really makes me like a person and have some sort of like I'm very comfortable with you and I can see if a long term is not judging people. And I think not judging a book by its cover, especially, and giving people the benefit of the doubt to an extent. I think Madison has that quality. And yeah, just people who judge. A lot of people in LA judge.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
For sure.
inevitable to not want to judge people here. But I think if you can get beyond that, especially not being from here, I think it's a really good quality.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm glad you brought up the not. You said kids or marriage?
Kids.
Kids. Okay, because what I was gonna say is we had a matchmaker, celebrity matchmaker. I don't know. I did that because she makes celebrities. A celebrity matchmaker. Shout out Allie. And she had something where she said basically the three. I think she might have even called them non-negotiables. But in order to set someone up, it's how do you feel about marriage? How do you feel about kids and religion? Those are the three that if there's any one of them off, they probably, unless it's like a very unique situation, won't.
Religion.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think religion's interesting too, because like,
She's probably talking more extremes.
Yeah.
that's for a
because like if
specific
someone was
demographic.
like, if Hannah was really religious, and since I'm not, I'm just like whatever, I'd probably be like, okay, like I'll be religious for you, I guess, because I don't really care.
I see both sides actually. Okay.
I think if you both had extreme or like more set views on religion, it would be important to you that you would find someone that shared similar views, probably.
Did you grow up pretty religious?
No.
Did you go to a Catholic school?
I didn't go to a Catholic school, but I went to a school that like practiced religion, but I wasn't religious personally. But yeah, I think those are the type of questions that don't, on like your dating app profile, they say like, do you want kids?
Yeah.
Do you do drugs? Stuff like that are, I guess those would be people's non-negotiables.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And we even have options where it's, drink sometimes
Yeah.
or drink often, right? Drink often, drink sometimes, don't drink.
Yeah.
So
I've seen
yeah, I
that.
think those things are important at least to, if you have a very strong position on them, right? Just to filter through.
100%.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. So what about once you're in a relationship, what are the things that you find to be most important to have a happy, healthy, successful relationship? Like, there's obvious things like trust and communication, but maybe what else, or get more specific on those if you think they're
And
important.
how long have you guys been in a relationship?
Not very long. We've been
Not very long.
seeing each other since like December. I would
Okay,
say,
so it's
but-
getting there.
But
like,
we've
picking
been
up.
dating for like a month.
Like a month.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
very new, but it feels like it's been going
We've
on
been friends
for
for a long
quite some
time.
time.
nice.
Cool.
I think.
And you don't have to
trust-
speak about yours, but in general, like
Yeah.
relationships.
I think trust is super important. That's probably number one for me, because I feel like if you don't have trust, it will causes so many other problems. Even if there aren't issues there, like you're always going to be expecting there to be problems. So that's number one. Communication, I could probably be better at. Aiden's actually very good at communication. So
Good job, Aiden.
I think
Thank you.
that is important, but I am not the best at it. And I think also having a level of independence. I know we've talked about it, but just like having your own thing, your own life, and not needing the other person necessarily, but being able to like add to each other's lives, being whole on your own and like coming together.
Yeah, I kind of always, I have my own little list, and I always say 1 + 1 = 3, right, for a relationship.
Exactly.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
good.
How about you?
I kind of agree with a lot what you said. I mean,
That's good.
yeah.
That is great.
That's a good sign.
First rule, agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I it's not a difficult question, but I think I just would piggyback off of what you said.
Yeah.
Trust is huge.
Yeah, and
If
I
you
think
trust each other.
Yeah, and I think if you have, I think someone said that if a woman feels trusted and a man feels respected, those are like the recipes for a really healthy relationship.
I agree.
I feel like respect would be
Number
something that
2.
you would say.
Yeah.
Because you always talk about that.
Yeah, I think respect is definitely something that I value and or hold to a high standard. It's just respecting each other, life, people, and family. I think is pretty big. But
I love that you're a good communicator.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very great quality.
It's strange because I didn't think that I was a good communicator, but I guess that I am. I mean, I definitely, to me, a big thing is just working things out. If, let's say, a fight occurs or some sort of small banter, disagreement, I think the best way to resolve it, if you're on the phone, just to talk it out and just communicate how you really feel. And that's like, to me, is like that's one of the keys, I think, to a really healthy and long-lasting relationship is communication.
That is a great sign because that was one thing that we struggled with originally was like communication. Yeah, we thought so differently. We came from such different backgrounds, and we were always fighting, like thought we were against each other.
It's good to have perspective, though.
Yeah, and then
opinions.
slowly over time, we were like, okay, let's communicate why we actually feel this way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized, okay, we're not disagreeing or against each other. We're just thinking about it differently. So the communication helps a lot.
It's definitely easy to get heated and kind of state the way you feel, and that's that. But I think really diving deep into it is you're not a bad communicator, I wouldn't say, but maybe a little
Yeah.
bit.
I think communication's good because it opens up like resolving whatever you're talking about. And you're good at that. Like, let's resolve this right now instead of letting it carry on into the next day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then a small problem becomes so much bigger because you didn't talk about it, which is kind of what I do. Because I'm like, let me think about this and think about how I want to explain myself to you. I would say that. I'm like, I need time. But then it does drag the issue into like whatever, multiple days or however long it takes for you to think about it. So it's better just to resolve things in the moment. I agree, but it is hard for me.
Yeah, and I think that the more you communicate, right, as time goes on, the more comfortable you feel with each other, where you could actually be honest, like whether it's like, you know, sexually or, you know, what you value or just things along those lines, where it's like the more that you are honest and know about each other, you could kind of build on those foundations. And then there's kind of less secrets of like, oh, you did this and you know I don't like it. Where in the beginning, like you try to feel each other out and you communicate more and more over time. And then hopefully as months and years go on, it's like you've communicated so much with the other person that you kind of know exactly how they tick. You kind of know what makes them feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something for me, especially earlier on or like before we were in a relationship, was I don't want to say what I want or like,
Have high expectations.
yeah, like I'm like, oh, I don't want to make it seem like I care too much or something like that because like it wasn't a defined relationship. And I think that is a little bit hard to navigate. But then once I realized
that phase is weird. It's like, what do you say? Can you hold people to certain expectations? Yeah.
like, can I say like, oh, I don't want you to do this. But
Right,
then
right.
what you're saying is so true. Like once you are able to say like, it's fine to talk about this, then you can be honest with each other and it like solves so many issues, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's little things too. Like you're talking about independence, right? And I think independence is so important. But maybe in the beginning of a relationship, you're like, hey, I'm going out with my girlfriends tonight, right? And maybe Aidan is like, oh, like, okay, I'm not in a position to say, I want to question where you're going or what you're doing because, you know, we're new and I don't want to come off too strong. Then the more you let that build up, say a year or two, and he's like, hey, like, where are you going with your friend? And you're like, well, you never asked me that before. Like, why do you care? And it's like, yeah, it would become a strange question as you get years in. But
Right.
after a month, if you're like, hey, I genuinely just don't care. I'm just curious, right? Like, I want you to be independent, but maybe it just helps me feel a little more comfortable of like, hey, like, where are you going with your friends? Maybe I want to know if you're safe, or like if I could do anything to help. And then it just creates that trust and that circle of love.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Maddie, can you talk more about what you said? Not showing that you care too much. I think that's really interesting. I want to dive into that a little bit head first.
Yeah. Maybe this is like an avoided attachment thing. I don't know if you guys ever talk about attachment theory.
Almost every episode.
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely on the more avoidant side of the spectrum. So I'm always like, I want to be the one who like shows less emotion or cares less, especially at the beginning.
Intentionally,
Mm,
or
I not really that intentionally, but I kind of realized I was doing it. And I think it's because we had a period of like not being in a defined relationship for so long, where my past relationships, I entered a relationship where we're like, okay, we're boyfriend and girlfriend more quickly. So then I'm like, okay, I'm allowed to show that I care or whatever it was. But in this one, it was a little bit different. So I found myself doing that more, but I don't think it was super intentional. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just learned this about myself recently.
Yeah, we always talk about those two methodologies, I guess, or ways of dealing with things. And yeah, it's interesting. Like, I would say I'm an avoidant just because I don't want to avoid the situation, but I know that if I'm an aggressor or coming off the way that she is and, fueling that fire, it's just going to create a big disaster.
Bigger
Whereas I'm
fire.
like, okay, let me pull myself out of the situation. Hopefully this whole situation calms down. I'm not that I don't care as much, but it's like, it's not as exciting me as much as it's exciting her.
Yeah.
So let me just take a step back. Hopefully that diffuses a lot of the situation.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Aiden seems very secure.
Yeah, I would say you're secure for sure. Secure attachment style.
I think so. Honestly, I'm not too. I haven't read too much up on the attachment theory, to be honest. So I don't think I can really classify myself on the spectrum. But I would say that I'm probably opposite of you.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. Yeah.
Well, I think that makes sense with communication.
100%,
Right? Like
yeah.
if you guys ever fight, you want to communicate, and it's not an attachment thing per se, but it's like, hey, like, what's the problem? Like, let's get to the root of it.
I think that
coming
if
to
there's a
her.
problem, or I'm also just a very upfront, straightforward person, kind of blunt, straight to the point. I think in certain aspects, maybe that's not the best way to handle situations, but I do think in that stage where it was a little bit not in a relationship, a little iffy, not iffy, but just in that middle,
Undefined.
in the undefined stage, she was I definitely saw a change once we made it clear that we were in a relationship. She was like, okay, I don't have to
Have a
feel or
guard up,
act this
yeah.
way. I can be myself fully and just kind of act like we're in a relationship. So I think it's good to an extent. I do, because then you don't put yourself on the line so much and then end up evidently getting hurt.
Yeah.
But
And building the trust.
yeah,
Right.
I think it's smart.
Do you think that you got your communication skills and got comfortable? Was it from your parents, or did you have like a household where you guys talked a lot and talked openly?
From my Spanish mother, yes. She
Interesting.
is a very communicative person. She will always, very loud person, and just always wants to either heal a situation, mend, or get to the bottom of something. It's rarely an instance in my childhood where she was quiet about something. If there was an issue, she would confront it right away, but in a very respectful and kind of, she maneuvered situations very well. And my dad was a bit less, not confrontational, but just didn't communicate as well. And that's something, as an only child, you have two people that you live with for your whole life, and you see how they act. And when you get to a certain age, you understand how each person's personality works with each other. And I definitely got my communication skills from my mom.
Is your father American, or?
My father's Canadian, actually. He was born in Canada.
Oh.
Ah, you got that tie?
Yeah, he was born in Canada, and then kind of his father was in the military, in the Air Force. He was a pilot, so they traveled everywhere. I think he lived in the Philippines and France and a bunch of places, but born in Canada. So it was, I think it's just also in the Latin blood to just kind of talk and work things out. So I definitely appreciate that skill from my mom.
That was
Feel
a
that.
beautiful response.
Yeah.
That was really beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think you, from what I know, I don't know you too well yet, but you know, what we do is we take qualities from both parents or
Right.
whoever's in our lives, and we try and make the most out of those qualities, right? And it seems like you did a really phenomenal job taking communication from your mom. That's
I
really
have
cool.
my ups and downs. I can't say that I'm a great communicator, but I definitely try my best to communicate as best as I can in specific situations. But, you know,
Nice.
I feel like
ups and downs.
most guys, from my experience at least, aren't great communicators. So I was like, you're really good at explaining how you feel, or like you're not shy to share your feelings, which is kind of hard to find.
I think it goes back. I'm not sure if you guys ever bring up just the topic of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
I
Like
think
deeply. We talk about it.
I think that it goes into that realm where my mom is a little, maybe too much of an emotional intelligent being. I think there's a fine line where between IQ and EQ or EI, I guess. But I think she was very emotionally intelligent and was able to very empath, and it kind of just allowed me to naturally grasp that.
Yeah, I think EQ
Situation.
is so much more important than IQ, especially as you get into the business world. And, you know, we're seeing that because you deal with so many people.
Right.
And the more that you can relate to them
navigate,
and
yeah.
manage them and lead them, that's more of an EQ than an IQ, right? And I think if you have a good EQ, you have such an advantage in life, because the key to life is to understanding people and helping people and growing
Right.
with people. So, yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think the
She's
LA
good
thing,
at that.
most women have great EQs.
Yeah.
Their intuition is great from what I learned from Hannah. But I think you're exactly right about guys in LA, because we get a lot of women on the show, right? And most of them are trying to date or trying to find someone that they actually want to connect with. And I think maybe this is not, I don't want to shit on LA guys, but it's just more of like I have all these options. I'm this broy guy. You have to cater to me. I don't really care how you think, because if you don't treat me the way that I want to be treated, I'll just go find another one of you.
Right.
And it's like, well, that's not a good way to look at it, because you're not treating the other person as like an actual human who you are going to try and understand. You're just treating them as, you know, the here and now option when you can just get the next best option.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the avoidance conversation, I feel like that was another reason why I was like, I don't want to seem too eager early on, because I feel like that's usually how girls are with guys, especially when guys act like they do have a lot of options. Like, then girls are like, I need to find this or secure this person. I'm like, I want to be the opposite of that, which is maybe not great as well, like to be on the other end of the spectrum. But that's like something I was always
To me,
conscious
that's
of.
more attractive, I think, personally.
I think so too, but you can't be too extreme
Yeah,
either way.
I think a healthy balance is great, because if you are upfront right away, not right away, but sooner than later,
Right.
if that person stays with you, you know that, okay, this person's in it for the right reasons. And if they leave you when you're upfront, then you know, okay, well, I'm not wasting any more of my time, because they're not the right person that I want to be with, because they're seeing my true colors and they're
Mhm.
moving on. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like a delicate balance of not being too aggressive,
Yeah.
but not playing it out where eventually you're like, well, I actually like you. And it's like, well, I wasted all
They-
this time.
Yeah, exactly.
sense.
So true.
Yeah, lovely answers. Appreciate it. And that's why I think it's very important these days with like the rise of podcasts, and there's all sorts of like, if you were to look online, right, there's all sorts of crazy definitions about like what masculine means these days and what feminine means and everything. But I think the rise of podcasts and just like these types of conversations have like allowed men to like kind of get more into their feelings and be more like
Right.
generally accepted and
Yeah.
actually encouraged by society. I think it's really cool. I think it's like just as kind of a safe space to, even though safe space you put it out on the whole internet, but safe space to have open conversations.
We'll get made fun
I
of
agree
by
with
someone.
you fully. I think this is also a very safe space, just to put that on the record. But I do think that podcasts, people really open up.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about their lives, their feelings, and I think it's a great thing, especially guys. I do agree with you 100%.
Thanks. Yeah, and I always say like I like to prepare, but I hate to look at the questions because I almost feel like I'm not as present and I don't get to like listen as well as I could. But that's what Joe's great at also. And so I guess moving on also, what is the best relationship advice you've ever heard or given, or both? Because I feel like we're all experts at other people's relationships, right? And telling other people what to do. But is there anything that sticks out that you've heard or maybe helped somebody with?
I always tell my friends, I don't know if this is good advice, but they'll be like, what do you think I should do? Like, should I stay with this person or not? And I'm always say, if you are happier without them than with them, then you should end it. Or if there's like so many problems that are coming up and it's causing you so much stress and anxiety that you wouldn't have in your life, then you should be on your own or find someone else who doesn't cause that, because I feel like those issues never really get resolved. And if you get more and more serious, the problems just get bigger.
That's great advice.
Really good advice.
Yeah.
I don't think I can top that, but I can say I can say that at some point, whether it be that weird undefined phase in a relationship, maybe beginning or in a long term, you got to sit down with yourself and ask yourself a series of questions and just see if you're doing good now or if you were doing better beforehand. I'm not an expert, but I do think that checking in with yourself and just making sure that you're good and you're healthy and your stress levels are managed and your life is in good shape. I think that's just the best way to kind of assess if you're good in a relationship. But also calling friends and just call your mom, call your dad. They probably know you best. And I definitely have been in a position where I've called my mom a million times and had lots of conversations. That's the best advice I can give.
Yeah.
Call your mother.
All right. And I love the first thing you said, especially, both things, obviously. I'm going to call my mom as soon as this is over. I'll wake her up because she's on the East Coast. But the first thing you said, I think one of our other recurring through lines of the show is Jay Shetty. His name comes up all the time.
Love him.
And I think
it's so funny. He's like the new cool wave, which I love
Yeah,
because
he's the best.
that's who we want to embody.
Jay Shetty, he's a podcast.
Oh, we'll send you, Aidan. We'll send you a bunch of.
Please, yeah.
And listen to his
Shetty.
episode with Kendall Jenner. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Oh, we love Kendall Jenner.
yeah, but one of the things that he says, and I'm going to probably butcher the actual quote or whatever, but he says, like, he checks in with his partner all the time and says, like, is this relationship, like, I think going in a direction or growing in a direction you want it to go in? So not only checking in with yourself, but checking in with your partner and making sure that it's headed in the right direction, I think is huge.
So huge.
I feel like you said that to me recently. You asked me,
Yeah,
like,
I do often.
is everything good? Like, are you happy right now? Which
Because
is,
he's a great
He
communicator.
doesn't
Yeah.
need Jay Shetty. He's
yeah,
he's
you
on the
keep up
same
with
level.
it
I'm sure I
yourself.
definitely do.
Yeah, but I feel like people don't really ask that question. So it is a good thing to bring up in a relationship.
Yeah. And another thing he said, which I actually like to follow, is like when Hannah and I first started, fighting or, dealing with things, I would ask a lot of people's advice, right? And it actually made my opinion less clear, which I didn't like. And I started to listen to outside noise.
Yeah.
And one thing that he strives for is like, don't really let your problems outside that circle unless you have to, because you're not going to get the feedback and response that's going to help your relationship.
Yeah, the issue with asking for relationship advice is people can only give you the advice through their own perspective or experience. So it's not really objective advice. It's just like what they think from what they've done or learned in their own life.
Exactly.
I think there's a specific group of people you could ask.
Yeah, and I
But
think
it
when
goes-
you said your mom, I was like, yeah,
Sometimes maybe.
yeah,
you
I
should.
value my mom's opinion because she has my best interest. Whereas like if I was dealing with something serious and I told a friend, maybe they'd be like, well, I actually want you to, in their head, I actually want you to be single so like we can go out more.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
that's not really good advice.
Probably not the right person to ask.
right.
But I definitely think that mom, you got to pick and choose when to call your mom. I think, but in the right time, it's definitely will be. Especially for mine, she'll give me an unbiased opinion, which I think is hard.
100%.
But
I think the other issue with talking to your friends about your relationship is you usually only tell them the bad things. I was talking about this with my best friend recently. And then your friend thinks of your partner as like this bad person, but obviously they don't see the 99% that's amazing. Because you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I am so happy. Like, you're not going to tell them all the great things.
so, what'd you say bad about me? Then?
Oh, nothing.
No,
But it's true.
Yeah, I think
It is
that's
true.
exactly right? Like, we only hear the extreme things, right? Like, people don't see the day-to-day. And, if the day-to-day is 99% good, like, you're so lucky, why hone in on that 1% and let everybody know about that 1%? Exactly, right? Like, the outside friends think, oh, he's an asshole, like, you should leave him, he's a dick, you can find someone better. And it's like, well, 99% of the time he's amazing, and we have 1% of the issue, so I feel like that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, and then you get back together and your friends are like, are they supposed to hate the person now? Or?
Exactly. After
It's
they're
crazy.
like, you need to break up with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true.
The friends.
Okay, Maddie, pretend that Aidan is not sitting next to you. As a fashionista, I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm going to call you a fashionista. What style do you like best on a guy? And do you think it has to, do you think like his look is specific to the guy?
I think that fashion is important for guys. I like admire when guys dress well. I think it is a great quality. And before moving to LA, that wasn't really something that I saw that much because I feel like guys in Toronto like just didn't care about clothes, or it was kind of uncool to care about clothes and what you were wearing. So you do have really good style, actually.
Thank you.
But like in terms of what outfit looks the best, I feel like people can wear whatever they want as long as it is like put together nicely and they're confident. Like I think it's cool to be confident in what you're wearing and to care about what you're wearing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eden has
Love
great fashion sense. I just told you that yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah, she did. But one thing that we'll do is if we don't like, if she says,
Mm-hmm.
"Is this a good outfit?" I'm just the kind of guy where I'm not going to say it's great. I'll say, "Let's see how we can change it." And she's the same for me. If I'm not wearing something that she thinks looks good and I trust her judgment, we'll figure out something else. But I think it's good not to
Yeah, you're
let
not
someone
gonna
walk
be like,
out with
yeah.
a bad
that's a
outfit on.
Yeah.
great quality. I
Yeah.
always do that with Hannah.
Yeah.
Where she's like, "How do I look?" And I'm like, "You want me to be honest?"
Yeah, right.
It's like it looks it looks great, but I think that looks better. And
Yeah.
she's like,
Mhm.
"Okay."
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
great. I think it's so good to be honest with each other.
Except on the wedding morning last week, I don't know. I think she was debating between the white heels and the sneakers, and I think we just need to get the hell out of the house.
What'd you go with?
She went with Steve. Actually gave her the advice for the white heels, which was nice.
Very
That's always a good look.
bridal.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Sneakers on the wedding day. That's cool too.
Yeah, we're very different.
Okay. So I saw March 2019, you did a podcast, and they asked you where you saw yourself in 5 years, right?
Oh wow.
Wow.
2020.
You said two things. You said
Okay.
living in LA full time
Okay.
and starting a clothing company. So you
Thank
achieved
God, I
both
did
of
both
those
of them.
Wow.
in less than 5 years, in 4 years. All right. So I'm going to ask you both this. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Anything major you want to accomplish or anything, anywhere you want to be specifically?
I feel like my answers wouldn't change that much. Just I want to continue to live in LA and I want to continue to grow my brand. And I have other goals within that, like with growing the brand especially. But there's not really any new projects that I want to start. That was the thing that I really wanted to do. But now it's just like bringing it to the next level. So yeah, I think I would say the same thing.
That's
Nice.
great. That
Yeah.
sounds like you're in alignment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome that you do that within the 5 year mark before it.
Thanks.
It's rare. I think for me, if I were to say narrow it down to two, I would like to. I'm in the beginning stages of putting together a production company and starting a production. So I think in 5 years, I'd like to have that running stable with a few employees, something, maybe a startup, but just kind of sinking my teeth into different feature films and stuff like that. And then I'd like to be happy and passionate about what I'm doing, I think is like the biggest thing for me.
That's the key to life.
It's
Mhm.
funny. I did a project last week where we had to for one of my end of semester projects for class. It was write a script, write some piece of art that defines a fear that you have. And I think a lot of people in the class took it in different ways. And I was like, the question was, what keeps you up at night? Like, what is the fear that keeps you up at night? And I think, okay, well, being in the ocean, surrounded by sharks and falling off a cliff, stuff like that. And then I thought maybe the fear of unknown. I think that goes for a lot of people. It's just what's going to happen in 5 years? Where are you going to be? And I think Madison does this very well, is to actually write down and set goals. I think that's huge, is to write down a goal for yourself. And she has a couple of years on me, so I think that I learn a lot from her. But like that, setting a goal in 5 years, I want to have a production company up and going, incorporated, and I want to be happy with what I'm doing. I think that's very important.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One thing I listened to yesterday, which is directly tied to that, is the most successful people get to where they want to go to because they know where they want to go to, right? And I think that's what setting goals is like,
Right.
You know where you want to get, and you're going to set each goal, and you have a plan on getting to that goal. I think that's super, super amazing. And what else was I going to say? Oh, the passion thing. One thing I always tell people is like, imagine the world if nobody knew what the other person did for a career, because then every single person would just do what they're passionate about, because they wouldn't care about judgment or,
It's really
you
good.
know,
way to look
trying
at
to fit into this bucket of society. It's like, no, I actually just want to do what I want to do.
Mhm.
Can I ask you a question, Joe, if you don't mind?
for sure.
I think
I
could
love getting
definitely
questions.
take and learn advice from both of you. Did you ever at one point in time, maybe when you were my age, sit down and say, I want to make a lot of money? And do you think that drove you at all? Because I got not a big debate, but definitely it was an ongoing topic with a couple of my peers, was that a lot of people, I think we were just recently in the desert, and one of my buddies, which we both didn't agree with that much, was like money equals happiness, and that they just strive to make money. And I think it's like, it would be great to have a lot of, monetary freedom, but I think that at least for me, I would love to do something that I'm passionate about, but that also comes with
Yeah. So
with
I
that
think
as
it's an
well.
amazing question. And I think, how old are you?
21.
21. I think for a 21-year-old, that's the best question you could ask somebody, because when I was 21 was the most stressful year of my life because I had no idea where I was going, right? I was graduating college, and you think when you're 21, you have to have the plan figured out, right? And even now I'm 32, thinking back on life, 21 was the hardest year of my life. And yeah, I was like, how do I make a lot of money? Like, what is my life going to be? What's my career going to be? And I actually worked really, really hard to get a really, really good corporate job in investment banking, because that's where you can make the most money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did all that, and I had my quote unquote dream job working with all these Ivy Leaguers for this investment bank, making a huge salary at a young age, say like 26, right? And after going through that process and doing all that hard work, after 2 years, I was like, I hate this. I was like, I absolutely hate this.
Right.
And I then went to another corporate job, and it was a little better, but I was still like, making money is great. Of course I want to make money, but why would I live a life that I'm not happy and passionate about when I know I have more to give, right?
Right.
So doing this, yeah, there's a potential to make a lot of money, and that would be great if it happens. But literally every single day we wake up and work on the app, I appreciate every single day because it's so much fun, and like what we're doing is like actually something that I'm passionate about, is helping people connect, and hopefully people find love, and like building a project with my friends, and just, we don't make a lot of money now. That could happen. It's great. But every single day doing something you're passionate about, we are luckier than anybody else in the world.
I mean,
so I would say, to your friend's point, yeah, it's a great debate to have with young people, but if you could make a living, whether that's making a lot of money or just enough to get by, and you're doing your passion, you're going to have a way better life than anybody else.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I hope that I can live up to that. But I mean, it seems like you guys have a great time doing this podcast, and then I'm sure you have a great time.
Well, I want to tell you something else, because I get really passionate about this.
Continue, please.
If you're starting a business that you're passionate about, the odds of you making a lot of money from that business are way higher, because you're actually putting everything into it, because you believe in it, and that passion is going to lead to more success, right? So if you're starting a business to just make a lot of money, you're essentially not going to care about it as much, because you're just caring about an end goal of money.
Right.
And once that money comes in, you'll either fall off the project or not put as much attention into it, and it'll end up failing, or you'll just be in a position with money and, okay, I guess that's nice. But if you believe in what you're doing and you're passionate about it, the odds of making that into something really fruitful monetarily are way higher. And I thought about this, my friend who's a DJ, and he wants to be a really famous DJ, but all he cares about is making money, like for these little gigs, right? And I was like, well, what if you actually cared about the music you're playing and creating an experience for the people listening, right? And then you essentially creating this experience and everybody loving it would just lead to more gigs, because people love what you're building, and then you're just going to create more money, instead of being like, oh, I want more money and I'm just going to do this gig and I don't really care what I'm playing. What's the point of that?
It's interesting you say that. Jaden, my roommate, every time I ask him, you have a gig coming up or something, how much did you make? Oh, I don't care about the money. He doesn't give, can I say shit on here or no?
Yeah,
You can say fuck shit. Doesn't matter.
He does not give a shit about making money. And I think that's a great quality, because for him, coming from Germany and being here in the US and having a manager that has so much pressure on him, and him just pumping out songs every day, and his vibe and energy is always the same. He doesn't care if he makes $20,000 a gig or $200. He's just playing his heart out. I think it's also good for me to be around that as well, because it keeps me grounded. But yeah, I do appreciate the answer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and with him, like, say he didn't make the money, right? Like say he wanted to be a DJ to make the money and
Right.
he didn't make the money. Would he look back on all the time he was DJing like as a waste? Like, oh, I didn't make the money. But since he's not, and he's just living in that moment, enjoying being a DJ, in 20 years from now, if he doesn't really make a lot of money, he's like, oh, I really didn't care about the money anyway. I just
Exactly.
really enjoyed the ride.
Because you'll never be upset about not having a big house or nice cars or
Yeah, you're not
whatever
missing
you
out
can
on
do.
anything.
Yeah.
Like any
Yeah.
unrealistic expectation. And I think when people look to make money specifically, it's like you're eventually going to get to a goal, right? So if your goal
Right.
is money and you get to that goal, say you get to that goal in 1 year,
Right.
right? Then what do you do, right? You have to like find something else to make money or what do you do? But if you're passionate about something, you'll always be passionate about something.
Right.
And that's
Money
just the
will
way you're going
come
to live
at
your
some
life.
point if
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
I feel like if you're
Makes a
chasing
lot of
money when you get it, you're more unhappy than you were before because you're like, this money is definitely going to make me happy. And then it doesn't. And then you're like, okay, now I'm like depressed because I don't know what is going to fulfill me or like fill that void.
Yeah.
We have a lot of conversations about money actually. And just
Yeah. For
So
sure.
if you
Especially in
look
this
at the
town.
the most depressed, the demographic that's the most depressed in the world and commits the most suicides,
Vets. I think it's veterinarians,
Is it-
but I'm kidding. I mean, it's true, I think, but I know it's not your point. But I think it's veterinarians.
I know there's a
Actually?
very
Doctors.
high,
Doctor.
very high demographic of like very, very wealthy investment bankers, right? They make so much money, but they lose that high, right? Because money's not a thing to them anymore. And then like, well, I've made the most money I can. Then they go to drugs, right? And then their life starts to spiral. And then they're like, shit, I have nothing else that can get me a high. And there's no other point of living. And they end up committing suicide because money is not the cause of happiness.
It's speaking the truth.
So many
It's true.
celebrities too. I feel like they have everything that you
Unhappy.
could ever want, all the money in the world, and like they just still feel depressed because it doesn't like excite them anymore.
Yeah, I feel
Everything's
like
meaningless.
yeah, I feel like it's a cliche, but when you die, you don't have any money, right?
No.
And yeah, you could leave money to your family, and that's nice. But more importantly, if you touch 10 people's lives, right, that is such a rich life that you lived, as opposed to having $10 million that, okay, you'll pass it down to your family, and who knows what they'll do with it, and
Right.
that can be risky. But I think a goal in life is to be passionate and touch other people's lives. And if everybody touched everybody else's life, what a beautiful world we would live in, instead of everybody looking to make $10 million. Like, what a shitty world we would live in.
yeah.
I mean, especially being here in Los Angeles, you're around a lot of money and you're around a lot of people who have a lot of things and stuff. And most of the people that I know with a bunch of money aren't necessarily super happy. I think the people that I know who do make a good living and who are also happy, like you said, have a really strong passion.
Yeah. And you could do both.
Yeah.
Like, that's the perfect world, right?
Yeah.
If you do your passion and you make a lot of money,
Yeah.
that's great. But as long as you're true to yourself, who cares?
Well, we'll check in
5 years.
5 years. I'll come back on the
I have a
pod.
good feeling in 5 years you're going to be producing.
I would love to produce, act, direct. I'd love to just get my
think
foot in
you
it
have
all.
the personality and the drive from what I see that you'll be doing some pretty cool shit.
Thank you. I
You have the look,
appreciate
too.
that.
You kind of look like a
Well, his
director.
dad was a very, very good looking actor. He
Okay.
showed me pictures.
He
of your
was,
dad.
yeah. Victor Brown, shout out, Dad.
Yeah, he's a stud.
I will say,
Yeah, we
too,
should get him on the pod.
just kind of going off what Joe said, I quit my day job a month ago, and I was making decent money, nothing crazy, but decent money. Didn't hate my job, wasn't stressed, liked the people I work with, but didn't really like the work. But the past month has been night and day. Like waking up every morning doing this and this alone.
Can I ask what you did?
I worked for so it's like a real estate development, but we did modular construction.
Oh,
So like
cool.
where we build it in a factory
Right.
and assemble it on site.
Nice.
And I was the only person out here, didn't have like on the West Coast, didn't have to commute, could kind of have a flexible schedule. But like now I'm like excited to wake up and get to work. Like there was kind of just a job. So
And it trickled into your passionate life too. I
Yeah.
mean, your personal life too, because you looked, I wouldn't say not happy. You always seemed happy, but just like you want to give more. And now you seem way more relaxed because you're giving what you want to give.
yeah,
So it's
exactly.
nice.
And getting to work with him every day is awesome. You seriously can't put a price tag on it.
I'm
I
sure
wanted
it's
to
a big
ask you about
change.
your podcast and your clothing line. I want to touch on that a little bit.
One more thing real quick,
Yo,
because
go
I do want to ask about that.
Okay.
But I love what you said about you had kind of more of a tangible goal, or more of a tangible goal with having a production company. And then the second goal was more of a, kind of like a mindset because I heard a guy say the other day, when people ask him his goal, he says he wants to be proud of himself. I think it's a guy, Case Kenny, who does like, he's a big Instagram account about like relationship advice. But like, because he says if you're proud of yourself, that means everything's kind of in a line, right? You're doing everything, unless you're like a sociopath or whatever. But if you're proud of yourself, so I like what you said, the second goal, because it's more of a byproduct of like living a certain way as opposed to a specific. And there's also one more thing, I'll let you go, because there's a Hunter Thompson quote that I love, where he gives advice to a friend, and he basically says, beware of looking for goals and instead look for a way of life that you enjoy and try to make a living doing that. And I think that kind of sums it up. I mean, everything we're saying is kind of on the same page, but all these things obviously help reinforce the idea. But I am a big believer in trying to make a living doing what you love.
It's such a good topic. I think this needs to be talked about at least a couple times a week with yourself, with people that you know. But just, I like to ramble, but just quickly before we move on to the next topic.
Yeah, I cut both of you guys. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
All three of you.
Before we move on to the next topic, I just want to say that I think another thing that I also am a little bit, not hesitant, but I want to make sure that, and maybe you both have thought about this, and you as well, Madison, but just feeling like you've achieved and will maybe leave a legacy or feel or felt like I did this, that this is great, and I feel good, I feel happy, I feel like I did this, and it's an accomplishment. Do you guys ever feel like that?
Yeah,
in
I
that
feel
kind
like
of
what drives me in life is to make a difference, right?
Right.
We spoke about that a little bit earlier. I don't know what that difference is, right? If it's touching 10 people, but having some type of impact on the world, right? Like
Right.
what's the point of being part of this world
you can't make
if
it
you
back,
just
yeah.
die and people, yeah, your family's going to care when you die, but what if nobody else is like, oh yeah, he lived and died and that was his time on earth. But I think the coolest thing when you look back on history is the people we talk about today, right? In a good way, of like how they've been dead for X amount of years, but they're still making such an impact on the world. And I think, especially as a 21-year-old, one thing that, it's important to know is like, don't ever feel you're not where you should be
Right.
based off of a certain age, right? As long as you're just progressing, you're doing the right stuff. Because I think a lot of people, no matter what age they are, they're always like, oh, I'm not where I should be for a 25-year-old. I'm not where I should be for a 30-year-old. And it's so stupid because people make it to whatever they're trying to make it to at any age, right? Like Judge Judy only started becoming Judge Judy when she was like 55 or something, right? And now she's one of the most famous people in the world. So, yeah, people get really lucky at 21 to be super famous and like have all the success. It's so rare, and you should not try and live your life with those rules. So as long as you're progressing each day, don't ever be like, shit, my friend's 25 doing this, I'm 25 doing this, I feel like I'm way behind in life. Terrible outlook on life.
It's great
Just
advice.
progress each and every day.
Thank you very much. That's really good advice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've become a big believer in byproduct, right? Like if, whether it's wealth or success or all these end goals, I think that they should be a byproduct of like living a life that you are proud of, enjoy, and actually enjoy doing the stuff every day is the best way to do it, I think.
I agree.
I think it's also good to feel like you're living up to your own personal potential. Like, am I doing the best that I can in this moment with the resources that I have or the place I'm in my life, instead of comparing yourself to people around you, kind of comparing yourself to yourself, like what you think that you can achieve.
I think that's the best way to look at life. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have the opportunity to do this, or I don't have the opportunity to do that. And it's like, well, you have the opportunity to be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday.
Right. So true.
And yeah, maybe you don't have the capabilities of being a CEO, or you don't have the capabilities of launching a fashion line. But if you're trying to maximize your capability, that's all you can control, right? So if you're being your best self, then you're living a life that is full of whatever you can give.
Totally. I agree.
So maybe we can wrap with Maddie's, I want to talk about your brand and stuff, but first let's hit you with the rapid fire round. So it is time for our speed dating rapid fire hot seat interrogation presented by Craig's. Thank you, Craig's, for the lovely to-go drinks. What are we drinking tonight, Joe?
Aperol Spritz, right?
Yes.
Aperol Spritz. Great choice. Beautiful spring evening. So it's just going to be your basic rapid fire round, presented by Craig's, of course.
Thank you, Greg.
So you can, whoever wants to answer first, if you have an answer, you can go first each time. So
Okay,
it's just
cool.
going to be kind of rapid fire. What is the best thing that happened to you today?
This podcast, obviously.
I was literally going to say being here, this podcast. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. We know you still got dinner ahead, so I'm hoping that answer is still true before you go to bed tonight.
I'm sure it will
I
be.
think it will be.
Okay,
It
cool.
will.
What is the best compliment you've ever received?
That I'm a good communicator. I'd say.
Love it.
I don't know.
Okay.
Can't think of one.
Or that I'm good at cornhole, actually.
Ooh, all right.
Cornhole.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. Well,
Remember
Challenge
that?
accepted.
Yes.
partner.
I would love to play some cornhole.
Let's do it. Okay. Favorite date spot?
Hole in the wall Mexican spot.
Did we both answer these?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say like a not popular restaurant where you can like talk and it's not super loud.
Cool. Favorite romantic comedy?
I don't watch any movies, so.
Wow.
you can watch- or, yeah.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Okay.
I watched that last night.
Such a good film.
Great one. A movie that made you cry, if you have one. But
Never cried in a movie.
I always cry in movies. I'd say the movie that I cry, the Notebook made me cry a lot.
Okay.
Actually, so cliche, but yeah, we could go on about this. But yes,
yeah,
we'll go with that
the
answer.
list is long
It's rapid
here as
fire.
well. Most played song on your Spotify?
Oh, geez, probably Skeletons, Travis Scott.
Okay.
I literally don't listen to music and don't watch movies, so these
Yes,
I'm
we're on the
terrible.
She listens to music. 100, come
But
on.
I don't like listen to songs over and over. I don't know how to answer that.
Does anything have 2 plays?
Probably, but I like
Okay.
so not a music
This is a
person.
Kill Bill.
Yeah, SZA's album.
Okay. Do you have a go-to karaoke song? That's the next question.
I do moves like Jagger. Yeah,
Ooh.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
It's a high energy. I like it.
yeah, it's fun.
I wish I could answer these questions.
Okay. If anything pops up, we're gonna do a marry, fuck, kill, but we're gonna go for the music, not the person. Justin Bieber, Shawn Mendes, and Kygo. So you get to.
Music, not person.
So one you can never listen to again. One you can listen to every day if you marry them, and if you kill them, or if you fuck them, then it's like once in a while.
Okay.
Who are the artists again? I'm sorry.
The Biebs,
Biebs.
Shawn
We're
Mendes, and
marrying
Kygo.
Biebs for sure.
Kygo. Yeah, Biebs for sure. Mary.
Kill Shawn Mendes, I think,
Really? I'd kill Kygo, honestly.
Okay.
and fuck Kygo.
Okay. All right. If you could have a drink with anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
These questions are hard.
Hey,
I
this,
always
is,
say-
this is the rapid fire hot seat interrogation.
I always say Kris Jenner, but then my sister recently said Howard Stern, who I thought was a really good answer
Okay.
because I feel like he would have a lot of insight.
Okay.
Mine would be Jay Shetty.
Or
Okay.
Jay Shetty.
I'd love to have a drink with De Niro, Robert De Niro.
Ooh,
We can make that happen.
nice.
I would die. That would be
You
amazing.
could like De Niro a little bit.
Oh, thank you very much. I would love to have a drink with that guy.
Where do you want to go on your honeymoon? Not necessarily together.
I want to go to South Africa and go on a safari.
Okay.
Nice.
Probably somewhere in Asia.
Cool.
Nice.
Favorite quote or mantra? Something you live by or something you enjoy?
I like to say, I feel like we talked about this like this week. The only time you really fail at something is if you give up, and otherwise it's kind of just pivoting through life, and like that's what I feel like life is.
Okay.
That's great.
I'm going to say something very cliche, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Love 'em.
Gretzky.
Love it.
Mhm.
Love both of those
Wayne
answers.
Gretzky, yeah.
What is your biggest fear in life? I know you kind of spoke about some sharks and falling off a cliff.
I think I'll go ahead. You can answer. Sorry to cut you off.
You're good.
No, I was gonna say probably not living up to my potential or feeling like I have a lot of regrets.
Mhm.
And then like the other type of fear, sharks are pretty scary, and snakes. I hate snakes.
Yeah, snakes.
She also hates when someone is chewing or like drinking water next
That
to her or
noises,
like
yeah.
ASMR. It freaks
Thank
her
God
out.
I'm a seat away. I'm chewing.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Last one. What does love mean to you?
What was that line from Wedding Crashers?
Oh, we talked about that.
Oh,
last
yeah.
podcast.
Oh,
True love is your soul's recognition of its counterpoint or counterpart
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
universe.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yo, actually, I mean, we were
Honestly,
talking. Who
it's
were we
true.
talking to?
That was our last podcast. It was,
Yeah, who was it?
Julia Barrett.
Oh, Julie. Yeah, and we were just saying we were talking about soulmates, and I think that's a
I think
great.
it makes a lot of sense, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I agree.
Awesome.
Well, we did want to ask you about the brand. We know you guys have dinner in 19 minutes. So is it in West Hollywood or close?
It's close by.
It's close, yeah.
Ask questions.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the brand a little bit because you started in 2021 is when you kind of officially
Yeah, February 2021 we launched, but I was working on it for like 2 years before that. It was during COVID, so it kind of like we got off track a little bit, but it's been definitely a journey of learning how to make clothing because it's never something that I learned. I didn't go to fashion school. I wasn't a designer. So it's been a lot of trial and error. But yeah, it's fun. So during COVID, I made a lot of loungewear because that's what people were wearing. Now we're kind of out of that and trying to figure out the niche that we want to be in. But it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome.
What's the
Yeah.
name of the company?
It's called Artless.
Love it. Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna order some.
Oh,
I'm
I'll
gonna
send
get
you
hands
guys
Is it just
whatever
women's
you
or-
want. No, we have loungewear. So we started with loungewear, and then I was like, I don't want to do loungewear anymore. And now we're back to loungewear a little
She has
bit.
some great stuff.
But we have unisex sweat sets, which are pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
I'm gonna buy 2. One for me, one for Hannah.
Nice.
So
And what's the podcast about?
So the podcast is called Call Your Friends, and I host it with my sister who's 18. So we kind of have different perspectives on the same issues. Because when we started, she was like 14. So it was like a big difference. And
So you're
now,
4 years running now? Oh,
yeah, we've been doing it for 4 years.
You're in the top 1% of podcasters.
Really?
How many episodes do you have?
I don't know. We don't count them, but it's been 4 years. So and we do it every week.
Yeah.
Wow.
been a
How
lot.
many subscribers do you have?
I have like downloads. you mean?
What are subscribers?
Well, subscribers would probably be YouTube,
Yeah.
but downloads would be everything else
Do
probably.
you
A couple
film?
million
Do you
downloads.
use camera as well, or is it mostly just?
Yeah. So when we started, the network we were with were like, no cameras. Like we don't post on YouTube. It's going to mess up the downloads. But now I think everyone's kind of coming around to recording videos. So now we do.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, so
It's been really fun.
we were listening to something the other day, and you know Chris Williamson? He's like one of the biggest podcasters in the
No, I
world.
don't
So he's like a Jay Shetty kind of guy.
Okay.
And he said that 90% of podcasts don't make it past the 3rd episode.
Yeah. I've
Of the
heard that.
10% that do, 90% don't make it past 21. So if you make 21 or more podcasts, you're in the top 1% of podcasters all time.
Wow.
Wow, that's
So
crazy.
you're like way ahead of that.
crazy. I feel like during COVID too,
congratulations.
everybody, like a lot of people started podcasts. So it will be interesting to see how many people like stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we spoke about Artless. We spoke about podcast. For each of you, what's coming up? Anything exciting? Any projects or anything that you want to plug that you're working on? Any cool music videos or anything?
Well, we actually worked on. I had the pleasure of directing one of her campaigns for her recent. I guess lookbook. You guys should check it out. It's very cool. It's we spent a good amount of time working on it. And I think
Oh, is that
we're
the one with the
pretty
T
proud.
that opens up with the?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
really like that.
It was
I
really
watched
cool.
Yeah, that was definitely fun. So she's helped me open the door to kind of the fashion world, I think, for me. I'm working on a feature film coming up this summer, which is going to be very fun. Don't know much about it. Just know that I'm on for directing it, and it's kind of in the pre-production phase. We're going out for some cool people. It's basically about the Cuban Revolution, and we're going out for one of my good buddies. His father's Andy Garcia, and we would love for him to be a part of it. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
Super cool. Awesome.
So it's definitely something that's I think I'm here and that's over there. So I definitely would. I'm very happy to be there to obtain that. But yeah, other than that, just some short films and stuff like that, but nothing too big.
Cool.
Nice.
She has another campaign coming up actually.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always working on just like the next thing.
Sure.
Nothing like no major projects coming up, but always designing new pieces and working on new campaigns. So yeah, it's very fun.
Awesome.
Nice.
And where can people find you online if they are so inclined? And I'll put the links in the show notes as well. But
Do you want like social media?
whatever
website?
you got, whatever you want.
So my Instagram is just Maddie Orlando. My brand's Artless, artlessforever.com. And then podcast is Call Your Friends.
Cool.
My phone number, email. No, I'm kidding. Okay. My Instagram is Aidan Browne, and website will be up for AMB Productions in the next month or so. So look out for that. But other than that, yeah.
Well, hopefully we can afford you and hire you one day. That would be awesome.
Oh, I will work for free for you guys, 100%.
Well, it's on camera, so.
Oh,
And you can find us on Instagram at First Rounds on Joe, at Steve Rossiter, and most importantly, at First Rounds on me. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching or listening. We'll see you next time. For now, check out one of our past episodes.